Welcome back to Now We're Talking, the show that looks at some of the top trending news stories online. Today I'm joined by the founder of the Open Intelligence think tank Loz Kay and the writer Danielle Matthews. The House of Commons Speaker John Bercow has defended voicing his opposition to Donald Trump addressing Parliament. His comments, including accusing the US President of racism and sexism, has been honestly and honourably made within his remit, he told MPs. Several Conservatives have criticised the Speaker, one saying that his career could be in jeopardy, and another that he had damaged the national interest. Downing Street has called his comments a matter for Parliament. The US President has accepted an invitation from the Queen for a state visit to the UK, which can include an address to both Houses of Parliament. That will happen later this year. However, responding to a point of order in the Commons on Monday, Mr Bercow said that he was opposed to Mr Trump speaking to MPs and peers, and that some other international leaders have done.
We value our relationship with the United States. If a state visit takes place, that is way beyond and above the pay grade of the Speaker. However, as far as this place is concerned, I feel very strongly that our opposition to racism and to sexism and our support for equality before the law and an independent judiciary are hugely important considerations in the House of Commons. Point of order, Mr. Skipper.
Commons Speaker there, John Bercow, questioned on the in the Commons on Tuesday about his remarks. He replied, "The House has always understood that the Chair has a role in these matters." He added, "I was honestly and honourably seeking to discharge my responsibilities to the House." It caused a bit of controversy, actually, his comments. This is, the Speaker of the House. He has to be really impartial about topics, because obviously, he's chairing the debate between both sides. But yet was quite vocal then about Donald Trump's state visit to the UK later this year.
I mean, I know it's controversial. I know maybe by the law letter to his job description, he has to remain unbiased and can't give out his opinions. However, I can't help but feel and think, good on him. I mean, he's one of the three key holders, isn't he, to the House of Parliament? So
that's right, yeah.
He does have a say. Maybe he shouldn't have voiced it publicly. Maybe that's the debate, isn't it? But I think someone needs to say something. I always appreciate when someone stands up and has a word. And it wasn't out of order. He didn't say anything. There was no slander. There was no outrageous comments. I think voicing an opinion, although it's not great.
They say there was no slander, but he did imply that the President of the United States was racist, sexist.
It's interesting. I mean, because in a way, perhaps his strongest point was about the rule of law, because in a way, perhaps that was possibly the most relevant. I think I admire the sentiment, but I think he's made himself a hostage to fortune with this one. He had to respond. But the Speaker is not well liked on the Conservative side of the House, and I think this could well be used as an opportunity to sort of actually push at him. Because what's actually kind of funny about that clip is because it's sort of a bit like it says, "Well, I don't have anything to say about this, but here I go." And it's like, and that's what we all heard.
Yeah.
So I think that's it's not. It's not. I don't think it's strictly out of order, but I think he will have been seen to sort of push the thing.
He did get applause and celebration, if you like, from the Labour benches.
Yeah, because also in terms of from the government side, they're going, well, actually, this whole business of the state visit is looking like a bit of a dog's dinner right now, and you're not helping. Because because the thing is, what are they going to do with him? It's like,
well, this is it.
Yeah, it's because already it's been causing so much controversy. So they kind of wanted to put this one to bed. But there was even kind of talk about potentially bringing President Trump to the Conservative Party conference, which is going to be held in Manchester this year. And you go, don't do that. It's like, oh, then the Manx won't have that, will we? It's like, oh, come on. It's like, don't do it. So what are they actually going to do with this guy?
Tears. As for John Bercow, I think he'll probably be pressured to stand down. I can't imagine after making that kind of comment.
I don't know. He's survived coup attempts before. The Tories have tried to oust him before now.
How many lives have he got? Do you know what I mean? I appreciate that he did it, but I don't know if he's gonna do well out of it.
I think it just proves, obviously, the common speaker is a human and not just a figure, symbol or whatever. He does have a voice, and that should be recognised.
Well, he was asked, so he was asked for his opinion, so he did have to say something.
Yeah.
And it was also, as with Mr. Trump, it's a sort of poison chalice. That was a really damned if you do and damned if you don't one, of course.
Well, even if he'd hedged, if someone asked a direct question, he'd gone, that says as much as the words, doesn't it, really? Do you know what I mean? Like you say, he's damned either way.
True. Anyway, we'll move on. Thank you very much for your input there. The government has vowed to build more affordable houses to help people buy and rent after admitting that the current housing market is broken. The new housing strategy for England includes giving councils powers to pressurise developers to start building on land that they own. Ministers also pledged to make renting more family friendly with longer tenancies offered. Labour have called the measures announced feeble beyond belief. The government, however, says that 250,000 new homes are needed each year to keep up with the pace of demand, and councils and developers need to get real to the scale of the challenge. Community Secretary Sajid Javid set out the details of a white paper in a statement to MPs, with measures including forcing councils to produce an up-to-date plan for housing demand, expecting developers to avoid low-density housing where land availability is short, encouraging the extension of buildings upwards in urban areas, reducing the time allowed between planning permission and the start of building from 3 years to 2 years, maintaining protection of the green belt, which can only be built on in exceptional cases. We'll get onto the green belt thing in a moment, and also the banning of letting fees. So, get a bit hoarse there. I'll have to have a drink in a moment. There's a housing crisis. That's what the government's now saying.
Now realised.
Okay, we don't have enough homes to house the people, and I think that's kind of evident, particularly in places like Manchester, that are seeing quite a sharp rise in the amount of people who are sleeping on the streets, who are homeless, and they don't have anywhere to live. But were we kind of expecting that there would be a housing crisis after the economic crash, or not?
I think there's been a housing crisis for a while. I mean, homelessness has been a massive issue, especially, like you say, around Manchester for a long time. For me, I think you see a lot of developers building, 4 or 5 bedroom luxury homes. We don't need 4 or 5 bedroom luxury homes. What we need is 2 up, 2 down, a row of terraces, so people can just go in, have affordable housing. Do you know what I mean? They've been focusing on the wrong audience for so long. The developers, they get these massive plots of land and you can have a few houses, whereas if you did them, like council houses, like rows and rows, it doesn't look as pretty. Maybe it's not as attractive to say, come to our city, it's full of council houses, but it gets people off the streets.
Well, there is incentive, isn't there, for developers to build affordable housing. There's actually a cash pot from the government to do
except that hasn't been used in the right way. that in Manchester at the moment is also, particularly within the centre, is also, I mean, also we're in trendy Ancoats here in our studio, and also just a stone's throw from here is also, there's a lot of development going on, but it's not affordable housing. And also, I mean, I've been in meetings where also the developers say we simply cannot afford to build this. So at the moment we're being told that actually it's unaffordable to build affordable housing. The Manchester Council has put a pledge. It has put a pledge through in terms of in terms of its aims of affordable housing. It's although it's still, in terms of what's actually planned, doesn't even meet the projected need. I think they're talking about sort of 2,000 homes a year, which is actually quite small. But there are some really good things in what Sajid Javid set out. I think being able to pressurise developers is actually much needed. That's also within the centre of Manchester. Affordable housing has in fact been demolished, and also there's new developments promised, but actually they're not coming through. I think that's much needed. But all of this is going to fall down if plans don't bring residents with it, because that's what we've seen about protests about the Greenbelt, but also within cities too. Is also you cannot force this upon communities either, because that won't work too.
No.
Yeah.
The Greenbelt issue is obviously huge. We've not got much time to cover it in this section, unfortunately. But there is quite large areas of Greater Manchester that have now been earmarked as part of this local council strategy, you know, to identify housing and where housing is going to go. The Greater Manchester Combined Authority has highlighted areas which could be used for future development, and it's seen quite a lot of backlash. Is that not just a case of NIMBYism? Not in my backyard. I don't want a load of houses when I've got views of fields.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you think people do need the houses, you need the affordable housing. On the other hand, if you've got this where I live at the minute, there's a lovely green area behind me. And when I read and I saw the map of the projected areas that we're going to be building over, I was terrified that we were going to get rid, because it's a day out. If you've not got much, you can go and you can walk in the open countryside, not far from your door. You know, I think that's important to have available for people. Yeah. And I think to just bulldoze it over and people say, oh, it's just arbitrary historic lines. It's not. It's open green spaces for people to enjoy actively.
We do need to go for a break there, Danny, but I'm sure we'll come back to that another time. Join us again in a few minutes where we'll be discussing being safe on the internet and the future of driverless cars.